transcript, Andrew Royce, and let me read this to you. On the documents, which I think that is part of what we miss. We'll have them tomorrow, but we don't yet have the transcripts with the documents in them. But what the jury saw today were some of these documents, which have Trump's signature on them, as Vaughn's talking about, Alan Weisselberg's notes, as Melissa's talking about. So the document goes up. It's a bank statement with Alan Weisselberg's handwritten notes about how to gross up the payment to Michael Cohen, because he presumes that the reimbursed hush money will be accounted for as income. So they have to sort of pad it or buff it. And then this testimony comes right after that. Did you have the authority to approve payment of an invoice to Mr. McConney, sort of a money guy? McConney, no. Before Trump became president, after an invoice was approved and a check was cut, who had signature authority? Answer, just Donald Trump. Question, after Trump became president, Eric Trump, Donald Trump Jr., and Alan Weisselberg. For checks from the trust account, how many signatures were needed? Less than 10,000, any one of the signatures, but over 10,000, it had to be two. And again, as Vaughn said, those checks were signed by Donald Trump. They made their way to the front page of the New York Times, and the jury today saw them.
So the document that your team just put up, that is Exhibit 35. And Exhibit 35 and Exhibit 36 are the star exhibits so far. And the handwriting that is on the left of the screen, the witness today made clear that that was Alan Weisselberg. This shot right now is Exhibit 36. And that was described as the chicken scratching of Jeff McConney. They both are, you have these two internal Trump Organization witnesses who have written these things. One is the controller, one is the chief financial officer. And the reason it's so devastating with respect to the scheme is this is supposedly legal fees, but it doesn't make any sense because Exhibit 35 is the actual payment record that Michael Cohen brings to Alan Weisselberg that shows that this is $130,000 that he wired to Stormy Daniels' lawyer. So this is the hush money record that shows $130,000 was paid. And this is, so then the issue is, how do we reimburse Michael Cohen as legal fees, calling it legal fees? Well, legal fees are taxed. So they literally say 130,000 times two, because that's his tax bracket. So he needs to be paid twice that amount in order to get reimbursed 130,000. That is not how legal fees, true legal fees are calculated. It's not by $130,000 that you pay to a porn star times two. I have been a lawyer. That is not how I
how it worked for you?
Yeah. So this is really devastating contemporaneous documentation in Exhibits 35 and 36. And again, barring a page from the January 6th committee, when you look at the key witnesses, they are witnesses from inside the tent. These are normally hostile witnesses, the Hope Hicks, Jeff McConney, Alan Weisselberg's notes, David Pecker. These are all not people aligned with the prosecutors, revealing what was happening in the Trump Organization. It may be sort of a, quote, boring day, but this is such hard evidence, and it is the kind of thing that prosecutors in summation are going to latch onto and make sure the jurors understand just how preposterous it is to that. Remember the opening? The opening, when Todd Blanche said there was no reimbursement. He opened by saying there was no reimbursement. Look at Exhibit 35 and 36. It is going to be really hard to contend that that's true.
So I love your point about the documents, and these people are just sort of, I have this image of like the people at Disneyland that greet you and sort of, but that's my brain. Let me read the testimony that sort of was surrounding the documents or contextualizing them. Where did the $180,000 come from? To Andrew's point, it's a combination of two amounts: the domestic transfer for $130,000 plus the $50,000 payment for Redfinch for tech services. Alan Weisselberg's notes say they then grossed up to $360. What does that mean? Asked the prosecutors. For tax purposes. Objection. Overruled. Question. Prosecutor. So you're familiar with the process of grossing up payments for tax purposes? McConney. Yes. He explains Michael Cohen's tax bracket would have been 50%. So that's, to Andrew's point, the doubling of the fee. Prosecutor, going back to that line in Mr. Weisselberg's notes where it's grossed up to $360,000, is that double $180,000? Testimony, yes. I mean, that's the hush money payment. What possible? I mean, just tell me what the strategy is to try to. I mean, I feel like we've spent so much time on the strategy of impeaching Cohen as a character witness, whatever. How do you impeach these documents with Trump's signature and Alan Weisselberg's notes, who went to Rikers all over them?
So you can impeach the documents. That's what makes the documents the star witness, as Andrew said. And, McConney, Tarasoff, they're just local color to explain why the documents are so important. But the real way they're going to try and impeach these documents is to distance Donald Trump from them. So you saw this a little bit with the cross-examination of Jeffrey McConney. It's Alan Weisselberg who's telling you to do this. These notes are from Alan Weisselberg. He's the one directing the plus up. He's the one who's trying to compensate for the fact that Michael Cohen isn't going to be made whole if he gets paid $130,000 because they're going to treat it as income. And in fact, he actually took $130 out of his own pocket and needs to be made whole for that. So they're trying to put some distance between Donald Trump, and that distance is the length of Alan Weisselberg. And so what you're going to be seeing over and over again in the cross-examination of these witnesses who are so critical for making these documents come alive is Donald Trump isn't the face of this. He's not the puppet master here. He's removed. He's president. This is a big sweeping enterprise, and it's too big for him to be really involved, which is why the prosecution's emphasis on these really quotidian details about his micromanaging, how he's on the phone call, how he's telling Jeffrey McConney, never pay retail, like you always negotiate. That's so important for dispelling this idea that he's just in the background, a kind of silent partner here. He's the guy running the whole show.
Let me show you all what Michael Cohen adds narratively in terms of articulating how the hush money scheme worked.
What was the purpose of grossing up the amounts, essentially doubling what you had paid to Miss Clifford and others? Because if you pay $130,000 and you live in New York where you have a 50% tax bracket, in order to get your $130 back, you have to have $260. Otherwise, if he gave me back $130, I'd be out $65,000. What was the purpose of spreading the reimbursements to you over the 12 monthly installments? That was in order to hide what the payment was. I obviously wanted the money in one shot. I would have preferred it that way. But in order to be able to put it onto the books, Alan Weisselberg made the decision that it should be paid over the 12 months so that it would look like a retainer. And did Mr. Trump know about this reimbursement method? Oh, he knew about everything, yes. Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Cohen. So the president not only knew about the payments, he knew and helped to hide the payments and the reimbursements to you. Yeah, we discussed it. Everything had to go through Mr. Trump, and it had to be approved by Mr. Trump.
So, Von Hillier, Donald Trump walking up to the line this morning of a threat of incarceration in large part because of his vitriol toward that man, Michael Cohen. And that's what Michael Cohen will testify to when asked about the hush money scheme.
Right. And look, there's also the 2018 financial disclosure report that Donald Trump not only filed but signed that had in a very explicit line in there that said, quote, Mr. Cohen sought reimbursement of those expenses and Mr. Trump fully reimbursed Mr. Cohen. That was on page 45 of that financial disclosure report that Donald Trump filed while president of the United States. So this is difficult here because it's not only the testimony of Michael Cohen, but also a record that Donald Trump himself signed that had those exact words in there. And today, a 10th violation of the gag order by Donald Trump found not only a fine of $1,000, but given very direct rebuke from Judge Merchan, saying in part that it appears the $1,000 fines are not serving as a deterrent. The last thing I want to do is put you in jail. You are the former president of the United States and potentially the future president as well. But there are many reasons why incarceration should be a last resort. But he said the magnitude of such a decision is not lost on me. Michael Cohen is still a witness who has not come forward to the stand, and not only witnesses, but also the jury. That was the 10th violation here today after Donald Trump's remark last week that 95% of the jurors are Democrats, which is just not true, and Donald Trump wouldn't know that. But yet it was a clear rebuke from Judge Merchan, who said that it could potentially injure the jury pool here, and not only injure them in terms of their ability to do this trial and make a fair verdict, but also put them at risk in their personal lives outside of this courthouse.